You are good. You're good to go.
Okay, we're going to call the LCAR meeting to order on here on, oh my goodness, March 7th. I'm off to a great start. On Thursday, the 11th. Anthea, and Ms. Dexter Cooper, please share with us our voting rules.
Sure thing, and Anthea is certainly fine. So for the record, Anthea Dexter Cooper from the Office of Legislative Counsel. And at your meeting last week, Senator Benning had asked about the voting rules that would apply and whether, as is required on the Senate floor, if you needed to have both audio and visual when you were voting. So I consulted with Senate Secretary Bloomer and House Clerk Rask. So Joint Rule 8 says in pertinent part that the rules of the Senate, as far as applicable, shall be observed in regulating the proceedings of every joint assembly. So Senate rules apply for the joint assembly. Mason's section 638-1 says in pertinent part that rules of procedure in committee are the same as the rules of the body. So joint assembly rules, Senate rules are going to apply to a joint committee. And then Senate Rule 9A subsection B, which is one of your emergency rules, which is adopted by SR2, applies, and that is the rule that requires remote voting be audio and visual. So going forward, I think they need to be audio and visual, and I will certainly appreciate it if you do the hands and the voice vote so that I can take more accurate minutes.
Okay, any questions for Anthea?
Not a question, but just a comment. The last time that we met, I believe, can't remember who was not on the video screen, so that person's vote would not have counted then, according to what I've just heard.
Right.
Correct.
It was Representative Odie.
Okay.
Right.
And furthermore, if we only have 5 people in attendance, 5 members in attendance, and one of them has a technical problem, we cannot vote. So our vote would be inappropriate. Is that correct?
My understanding is that you would not have the sufficient quorum for the votes that require that the vote be by a majority of the committee, not by a majority of the committee present, which are going to be the ones that apply for the objections and the certifications of the objections.
Okay. Were you not to be visual, you would be deemed to be absent for the purpose of voting. Is any other questions? If not, the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of a week ago.
So moved, Mr. President.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
It has been moved that the minutes of February 4th be approved. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. They do have it, and the minutes have been approved. First item on the agenda, 21E01, emergency rule, Department of Health, emergency administration rules for remote hearings for the Board of Medical Practice. And our witness is Mr. David Englander, who is with us, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members. I thank you for the opportunity to speak about this emergency rule. Members should know that this is a refiling of an emergency rule that was filed last fall. This was done in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it allows the Board of Medical Practice, which is housed within the Department of Health, that houses physicians, physician assistants, and podiatrists, to conduct hearings, pardon me, it provides the rules of procedure for conducting remote hearings. While the law potentially allowed hearings to, and the existing regulation allowed remote hearings, the board wanted to have very clear procedures for the board itself to conduct the hearings, as well as so that persons who are the subject of the hearings would know precisely what their rights and obligations were under the rule. This rule first came into effect in August of last year. It's been used twice for full hearings and has gone very smoothly. There have not been bumps. Although speaking of bumps, the department errantly filed an earlier draft of the rule that was provided to the board. I'm grateful for the assistance of your legislative counsel in assisting us with finding the right version, which I believe you may now have, or I can provide to you following this hearing. With that, I'd take the committee's questions.
Senator Benning, you're muted. Yes.
David, I'm not exactly sure whether page 4 is technically part of the rule, but it was presented to us. This package, page 4, paragraph 12. The sentence reads, "There will some cost savings." I just happened to pick that up. I'm sure it's a typo, so.
In the forms. Very good, thank you. Yes, you need to augur to figure out what that sentence means, but I think you can draw meaning from it there. I apologize, thank you.
Okay. We'll, hearing no objections, we'll consider that a Scrivener's error. Any further questions for Mr. Englander? I think this could be the shortest meeting on record.
Oh, I have
Senator Bray, you're muted.
Well, Representative Odie has something to say, so I'll wait.
okay.
Please go ahead.
All right, whatever.
Representative Odie.
Okay, I got here a little late, but so I'm not sure if this is the time to ask this, but under administrative procedures, environmental impact analysis, it says greenhouse gas. Explain how the rule impacts the emission of greenhouse gases. It says there's no impact, and then climate, no impact, and then how the rule impacts other aspects of Vermont's environment, not applicable. Well, I would think that because people are not driving to meetings, that there is less CO2 produced by the transportation sector. And so it does impact greenhouse gases and it does impact climate. And just generally, that would be something that maybe we would be interested in looking at, you know, the impact of having remote meetings on climate. And the other thing would be, when I think about all 14 counties and a lot of participation from around the state at these hearings and other hearings like this, I think that it could be a real way to attract more people to participate from all 14 corners of the state if they were able at least to have some of the meetings that occur happen remotely, you know, virtually, so that it's not such a burden to drive in for meetings.
And that point is well made. And I'm happy to amend the forms. If we're being perfectly honest, the impact is extremely small. There's only been a handful of these hearings that have saved folks driving. Mind you, this is something that takes place in the course of, these are on the whole, these are non-discretionary meetings. Right? These are licensees who are being brought up on some kind of charge. It's not that there would be more participation if there were remote hearings, if they were always allowed. And also, we imagine this rule will only last so long as the state of emergency. There is a meaningful distinction between having a remote hearing and having in-person hearings, both for the purposes of the board being able to more easily conduct their business, but also for the opportunity for the licensees to have meaningful interactions with their council and the board.
Mr. Englander, I believe the language we're discussing is in what some of us call the crib notes, the cliff notes for that precede the actual rules themselves. Have you just shared with us, you'd make an adjustment to those notes to perhaps no adverse impact, or actually it's a reduction of
Sure.
as is appropriate?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, Senator Bray?
Yeah, so I would move that the committee approve Rule 21E01 as amended, as proposed to be amended by Mr. Englander.
Okay, it's been moved that the rule be approved as presented with the rewrite of the introduction and the Scribner's error. Mr. Englander.
It's just occurred to Mr. Chair, and I apologize. This, of course, is an emergency rule. So this has already been filed and in effect. Would the committee allow the department to make those changes in a subsequent filing when the rule has to be when it has to be renewed, as it likely will be, or is the committee saying the department has to change these defects today and refile the emergency rule in totality?
We have not split that hair at this point. Perhaps Senator Bray has a suggestion. Senator Bray.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Englander, for the explanation. So given that we are in hair splitting territory, to not require a refiling, the burden of a refiling to address something that you've already explained, then I would amend the motion to remove the qualification that it include a statement on environmental impacts. So simple approval of 21E01.
Senator Benning.
Sure.
You've never missed an opportunity to comment on hair splitting.
Chris's idea sounded good to me.
Okay.
We don't get a chance to agree on a lot of things, so I thought.
Senator McDonald. Senator McDonald.
Representative Higley.
Okay, great. All right.
Representative Higley. You're muted.
Thank you. I would like to support Senator Bray on this. I didn't realize we were going to get into such a discussion around the Zooming process, the remote process regarding climate change. Again, from my perspective, we've been talking a lot about this on the House side in regards to the negative effects of so much Zooming. I think there's a real loss of a personal connection, especially in the legislature in regards to knowing your fellow colleagues and rather than seeing them in a little 2x3 frame. So I'm a little bit concerned the road we're headed down about each one of these that comes before us in regards to this, because again, I think there's another way to look at it in regard. I'd hate to see personally us using this as a way to go forward in the future with all remote, just to make it sound like there's some major climate change initiative to it, when I believe that the detriment is even more in regards to personal contact and getting to know your fellow legislators. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Question is, shall the motion to approve pass? Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay? The ayes appear to have it. They do have it, and the rule has been approved. Unless there's any further business to take up, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Charlene, I think Charlene said that we're not scheduled for next week. Is that correct?
That is correct. The next meeting is the 25th.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move to adjourn.
Senator Benning has moved that we adjourn. Are you ready for the question? Representative Higley?
Thank you. Not to stall this out, but I was just curious as to whether the veterans in the group could explain to me. I know a lot of this information it's coming in, and I'm sure more and more of it's going to come in, is sometimes an interesting and heavy read. Is it your experience in the past that when a rule comes before you, that the folks that are involved in the rule, whether it's through public hearings or whatever, pretty much have a handle on what concerns they might have, and they bring it forward? Because again, just me looking at a particular rule that's up, it's frustrating for me to understand exactly what's going on. I just love to hear from a veteran what that process looks like.
An appropriate question, Representative. We have had rules that are bigger than most phone books in the state of Vermont.
Right.
And in my observations over the years, the folks the members who speak and ask the best questions, rule by rule, are ones who represent the committees of jurisdiction and have some experience with it. And that's why we have a variety of experience and committee participation. And some members go to things that they're interested in and go through with a fine-tooth comb. Others trust in their colleagues to ask the proper questions. And then when rules are more controversial, there are inevitably, well, not inevitably, but when they're more controversial from the public's point of view, we often have 3 or 4 or as many as a dozen or 2 dozen people that are prepared to be witnesses and speak to their rules and to the rules and question them or support them. So
Thank you very much for that,
that's
Senator.
an excellent question, and and that's what you can anticipate. We're less populated during Zoom, although we may have more viewers who are tuning in for a variety of reasons. Someone else, I just saw a hand, Senator Lyons.
Thank you. It is a great question, and especially as you're entering the new world of LCAR. The one thing that really does help is to have the, excuse me, the information that comes from the committee chairs. So each committee chair reviews the rules and then submits affirmation of the rule or not. So that's very helpful. And it also can help you talk with committee chairs to kind of sort out what your thoughts are. So not that everybody has a lot of time now and it's hard to get in touch, as you said, but
Right.
it's also helpful.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
The question is, shall we adjourn? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Nay. And we are in adjournment. Thank you very much, and
Thank
see you
you.
in a couple of weeks.